As AI continues to evolve, one of the biggest challenges the industry faces is the high cost of running these very powerful models, especially when dealing with large amounts of data. It's a huge financial burden that often limits innovation, particularly for smaller teams or cost sensitive projects. Now, Anthropic's new prompt caching feature is a potential game changer kind of on the horizon. This technology promises to cut costs and improve efficiency for developers by allowing them to store and reuse prompts. And this is set to make AI more accessible and sustainable as well. So this is quite interesting, Raj. What are your initial thoughts on this?
I believe this is a very, very lucrative opportunity for developers. And Anthropic, obviously competing with OpenAI, ChatGPT, they're looking at ways where people will adopt their technology, their APIs over OpenAI's tech. Why is that? Well, the more tools which are built on Anthropic and Claude, the more people will use them in the future. And as it happens, tech development or API usage is more sticky. It's hard to replace APIs with new ones all the time. Well, I mean, this was going to happen a fair bit, but at the moment, if you can get your AI to be implemented into every wrapper AI tool being built, so if you're building a transcription service in the back of Anthropic as opposed to OpenAI, that gives them a better opportunity to stay in there and to be used. Every time you use it, you're paying Anthropic as well, so it's a win-win. Now they're
Yeah.
trying to find ways to make people use it, and as it happens, they've made prices much cheaper, about 90% cheaper, by allowing people to cache the instructions they sent earlier. And to give you some background, there's a thing called context window, whereby when you send a query to an AI tool like ChatGPT or Claude, there's a limitation on how many characters you can send. That is, for example, your information about your company, your accounts, for instance, and also the response you get back. Together, the response and the input con, makes a makes the beginnings and the overall context window. So in the case of Anthropic, it's 200,000. So that's not a lot. Equally, it's expensive to keep sending that instruction again and again,
Mm.
and that costs a lot of money. Is there a way we can just use something which is cached in the memory of Anthropic? And that means we save money and we save time and characters as well. So that's what they've done. They're kind of using the context window as a way to save people money, which I think is genius.
Now, for people who are perhaps a little bit not at the forefront of AI, like myself, could you just explain exactly how this affects the operation of LLMs? Are we speaking about, when we're speaking about prompts, often people think about, yourself as a user entering a prompt. Is that the sort of thing we're talking about, or is this now a back end thing for developers?
Absolutely, absolutely great question there, Megan. Thank you for bringing that question up. So prompting is great for end users, but it's also useful in a very similar way for programmers as well. In order to program tools using AI, you write prompts in a similar way as you would write prompts on ChatGPT or Anthropic's window. Obviously, in the case of an end user, you have to enter the comments again and again, but Anthropic and ChatGPT make it easy by allowing you to save that data in the thread itself. So when you open a new thread, you would have that data from the previous things you had queried in there, which is great for the end user. But actually, when it comes down to programming, you send that previous information every time you query the AI tool, which is really annoying. And it's also time consuming and consumes money as well because every time you call the API or you call the tool, you're sending all the data you had previously sent again. And every character you send, every time you send this information, there is a cost involved. And that can be, if that was somehow mitigated, you save a good amount of cash on generating new content for you using these AI tools. So what they've said is instead of sending it back again and again, we'll cache it for you. That means we'll keep it in the memory. So we can keep the data which you sent before. Just send new data in, and you'll get the same answers, maybe even higher quality by using cache information and newly entered information. Sorry, this is a little bit technical to
Yeah,
try and
yeah.
talk about, but equally, I hope that makes sense that you can actually use your cache instructions from before again without actually entering it in time and time.
Yeah. Now, how is this different? How is prompt caching different from other ways models remember information? So we're speaking about Anthropic and Claude that has this prompt caching ability now. How does that compare to the likes of ChatGPT that also has like a memory? Yeah, maybe you could break down the difference between the different types of memory in AI.
Yeah, so memory, when we talk about memory, that is a consumer product. That is for people who are using the non-programming version. You are entering back and forth information and stores it on your local memory, which is the memory created for your programming. In the case of the caching, this is completely different because this is a programming interface, or we call API, for instance.
Mm.
Now, in there, memories don't actually exist the same way as you have in ChatGPT. You don't actually have that caching functionality at all in ChatGPT at the moment, or OpenAI for programming interface. So you need to create that and send that information again and again. So, for example, I'm talking about my plans for flying to Barcelona, and I enter a whole itinerary. Now, if I want to use that in a programming interface, I have to send that itinerary again and again. Every time I have to ask questions about Barcelona and my trip. Whereas in the case of Anthropic, they're saying you enter the itinerary for Barcelona one time, and you're going to save that for you for a few minutes, and then you can use that for that time, and without sending it again and again. So it'll remember the same way as it remembers in memory for
Mm.
ChatGPT or OpenAI. They use it as a normal user, not in the programming interface. That's really impressive because you can now have that data saved for you temporarily. You can use it and call it so you can make your prompting much more efficient.
Mm, mm. Which industries or projects do you believe will benefit most from prompt caching? And how could this feature help AI become more widely used as well?
I would say almost every industry can benefit from it. I would personally imagine content creators are going to find it very useful. News providers are going to find it very useful. Accounting, finance would find it very useful. So I would say a lot of industries would find it beneficial while coding using Anthropic
Mm.
to have cache data on.
Yeah. Now, the cache prompts also last for 5 minutes, which in internet time, that is quite a long time, but in human time, 5 minutes, not very much. So, do you see any challenges with the amount of time that the prompts are cached for? And how do you think developers will handle those when using this feature?
You're going to need to repeat that again for me. I actually didn't get that.
Oh, sorry. The cached prompts last for 5 minutes. So do you see any challenges with that kind of time frame? How do you think that developers will handle those challenges when using this feature?
Yeah, the 5 minutes time limit on the cache doesn't seem ideal, to be honest with you. It's just like it feels like they kind of gave you something they gave you a lollipop and they said, yeah, you can have that, but only for 5 minutes. You can only lick the lollipop for 10 times and then that's the lollipop gone,
Mm,
right? So it's like, why don't you just give me the actual sweetie and let me have it the way I want to have it?
mm,
Obviously, from their perspective, this can be misused as well. People can enter some long prompts and expect it to be in the cache for hours or days or months, and that then isn't allowed to making money on every call you make. So I can see why they have a time limit, but I hope in the future they get rid of the time limit and make it more generous, definitely more than
yeah.
5 minutes.
Cool. So, yeah, prompt caching. This would be a real game changer for developers specifically looking to maximize efficiency and cut costs in their AI projects. We'd love to hear your thoughts. How do you think this feature would impact the way you or your team worked with AI? Drop us a comment or share your thoughts on social media. And again, as always, if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to share, follow, and subscribe so you never miss out on latest discussions. And yeah, thanks, Raj. We'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you, Megan. See you next time.